Protests in Mexico City turned violent over the weekend as protesters took to the streets, making their voices heard against gentrification and mass tourism. The protest was directed at the large number of U.S. tourists, as rent prices have increased dramatically since 2020, and many locals feel pushed out of their own neighborhoods, the Associated Press reports.
Pues el día de hoy estamos luchando contra la gentrificación. La gentrificación es este proceso por el cual las personas originarias de los barrios se ven desplazadas por gente con mayor poder adquisitivo. Es decir, gente que viene de otros países, en su mayoría extranjeros, a querer imponer su cultura, sus precios y desplazar a los mexicanos, a los nativos de estas tierras.
The protest started peacefully Friday in neighborhoods popular with foreign visitors. People gathered calmly to express concerns about issues like rising rents, displacement of locals, and how tourism is affecting their neighborhoods. However, the protests turned violent when a small group began smashing the windows of businesses and threatening tourists. Protesters painted graffiti messages including "Get out of Mexico" and held signs reading "Gringos, stop stealing our home." After initial actions in local neighborhoods, marchers assembled outside the U.S. Embassy, and that's when more police officers showed up amid the unrest.
Vengo porque la gentrificación solo es un paso más a la colonización, a los despojos y a que exploten nuestros recursos. Ahorita es con la gente. Pero ya falta poco para que cuando se les acabe el petróleo, el agua, el litio en otro país, vengan y nos saquen.
According to the New York Times, Mexico City's government secretary urged an end to the violence, saying Mexico City is a city of migrants and that the city's government does not agree with this type of demonstration. The city's governor, Carla Brugada, released a statement on X denouncing the violence. However, she said Mexico City officials oppose gentrification and are working on making housing more affordable. Similar protests have occurred in European cities such as Barcelona, Madrid, Paris, and Rome, where mass tourism and gentrification are also major concerns. For Straight Arrow News, I'm Lauren Keenan.
Hey family, it's African Osorenko, and I'm back at you with another video. So today, family, I'm coming to you to discuss the situation that occurred in Mexico City, okay? Yes, in Mexico. And how they were protesting for the colonizers to leave. They want the colonizers to leave their country, okay? And I'm here for it, and I do understand, okay? Because the colonizers go all over the world and make those places their home. And when they do that, they buy up all the property and then they rent it or whatever at a higher cost, which I know some people would say, well, that's the name of the game. Well, the name of that game is called colonizing, period, and point blank. And it happened here in America, and they've managed to take it all over the world. So, of course, you saw the video that I posted, and it was pretty graphic. I mean, really, really graphic and kind of frightening. But I mean, think about how the illegal migrants or the immigrants feel here in America, being hunted down, snatched and and seized, and all of that. And of course, you already who watch me know I'm foundational Black American, so I'm a descendant of slaves. Yeah, but I'm just talking about it. It's a conversation to be held. So they want their country back, just like MAGA wants this country back, which this whole country was stolen anyway from indigenous people. But it says "Gringo Go Home." This is a article by the Los Angeles Times. Mexico City protests target Americans and gentrification. It says marchers carried signs reading "Gringo Go Home" and also holding signs that read to gentrify is to erase memories. A flood of American and European arrivals since the pandemic has transformed many Mexico City neighborhoods, causing rents to soar. President Claudia Sheinbaum denounced the nativist tone of the protests, xenophobic displays. I'm sorry, family. Xenophobic displays of this kind must be condemned, is what the president said. Since the early days of the pandemic, foreigners have flooded Mexico City, particularly Americans and Europeans drawn by the cost of living and possibilities of remote work. During that time, several neighborhoods in the city center have transformed with tortillerias, corner stores, and barbershops replaced by wine bars, cafes, Pilates studios, many which advertise in English. The rents have soared, and some locals have been priced out of their homes. So, just reading that, you can sense the frustration of the locals when, they can't even afford their rent. They can't afford to go into their grocery stores. They can't afford to live as they once lived pre uh, pandemic, pandemic, as they did, because so many Americans, Caucasians, we know that to be the case, have flocked over to their country and moved in and are teleworking, which they don't want us teleworking, right? So, I mean, where's all this teleworking? Where are these people? You know what I'm saying? Because in America, they trying to make you go back into the office, right? Okay, yeah. They want us to go back into the office. Yet all of these Caucasians, gringos, have flooded countries like Mexico and other countries, Costa Rica, and many others, and are teleworking. Isn't that delightful? Some blame the city's housing crunch and rising costs on the new arrivals and the more than 35,000 Airbnbs operating there. In recent days, that anger spilled onto the streets. A march against gentrification drew hundreds of people, with protesters holding signs that said "Gringos Go Home" and demanding that Mexican leaders curb short term rentals and tax foreigners. It was held on July 4th, U.S. Independence Day, and was advertised as a protest against American imperialism. The march, which passed the U.S. Embassy, was mostly peaceful, but later some marches turned to vandalism, smashing windows of more than a dozen storefronts, including a bank and a taco chain and a popular Starbucks. Video showed protesters harassing tourists seated at an upscale taqueria until they got up and left. Some patrons sitting at street side cafes targeted by the demonstrators protested that they were Mexicans, not foreigners, in some cases flashing their identification cards because they didn't want to be labeled as the gringos, okay? Mm. In part of the city, walls remain scrawled with graffiti. My culture is not your trend, and kill a gringo. So this is obviously very serious. So only thing that I can say is you foreigners, gringos, who have taken yourselves from America. I mean, hey, isn't live in America the American dream? Isn't that what you guys have always, said that the to live in America is the American dream? So why are you guys, abandoning your dreams? You need to come back to America and live in America. Your teleworking status should not be an invitation for you to traipse all around the globe, causing dismay. And just like they want the immigrants out of America, then there are other countries where Americans have immigrated to who want the Americans out of their countries. And I am in agreement. Okay, I'm in agreement. And unfortunately, there has been an influx of them flying over to the continent. Recently, I watched a video of a young woman that resides in Kenya, and she's a Kenyan. And she said that there was a white couple, and the guy walked into her, almost knocked her down on the ground. And then when she said it, and they saw her coming, they were looking at her as they did this. And when she said, "Excuse me, you don't know how to say excuse me," he told her to shut the F up and called her the N word in Kenya. In Kenya, in her own country. They are over there calling them the N word. She said she slapped the crap out of him, as she should have, and told him, "You in my country and you don't talk to me like that." And so she said they didn't retaliate because she said initially she tried to get the security guard to intervene. And the security guard was also Kenyan. And he was afraid to say anything to this Caucasus Mountain demonic possessed individual. So he refused to say anything. But she handled it very well. I think the sister did. She absolutely handled it well. Because I'm going to tell you what, Kenyans, Nigerians, if it's not too late for you guys, Sierra Leoneans, I don't care what part of the continent you are in or from, if you don't check white supremacy at the door, you're gonna be running around there like here or like in South Africa. Okay, trust and know that. This is why Black Americans check that nonsense. Okay, this is why we're not liked. This is why they hate us, because yeah, what we're not gonna do is tolerate your abuse. Our ancestors took enough of it. We're not the ancestors that's gonna. We're not taking it. We are not taking it. So it is uh very, very inspiring. I'm just going to say it to see this because, yeah, it's a long time coming. They were going over to them places like Mexico City, Jamaica, and the locals couldn't go on their beaches. They were being told they were playing too much loud mariachi band music, all this stuff. You know how they get over into your community and then they want to Karen it, Karenista and change everything and they want control and they want to say, yeah. all of that was going on. And I guess, people are just tired. They're fed up. Stay in your country. You ever notice that Europeans do not go to Europe? Do you ever wonder why are they in all of the tropical? First of all, you need sunscreen to go to many of these tropical islands. So I don't know, that means you're not sun friendly. So if you're not sun friendly, I just don't know why you don't stay where, your body makeup can tolerate, the environment. I really don't, because they like to go and get sunburned and then get upset and be nasty and tell the locals that they're making too much music or too much noise. So, family, it's funny, but it's scary at the same time, but it's long overdue. Tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me what you thought about it. Yeah, I was very shocked when I saw this and I said, yep, it's about time. All right, family, please like, share, and comment. And please subscribe if you're not subscribed. And thanks so much for joining me and have a blessed one. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye bye.